In 2008, Dead Space featured many original elements that set it apart from other survival horror games, including the setting, the UI, the combat system that had you focus on dismemberment instead of headshots, and most importantly, it was a passion project created from the mind of one person. Just look at the interview from Ars Technica. Callisto Protocol looks to give the genre a breath of fresh air once again, and here are the top 5 reasons why we think it will be amazing. The most obvious answer for why Callisto Protocol will be amazing is because of Glenn Schofield. Yes, Dead Space was developed by more than just one person, but everything started from his ideas about what the game should be. Without a doubt, he is the passion, and this can be seen in every interview that he gives about Dead Space, and that same passion can now be seen when he talks about the Callisto Protocol. He found its striking distance, and he's going to have complete oversight of what happens with the Callisto Protocol. We may not know much about the story of Callisto Protocol just yet, but the trailers are curated perfectly to tease what Striking Distance Studios wants people to know, and there are enough lines of dialogue from the Warden that echo words spoken in The Island of Dr. Moreau by H.G. Wells. And even though this book was written in 1896, the elements of trying to alter humans is even more relevant today than it was back then. Dead Space and Dead Space 2, to a slightly lesser degree, were atmospheric survival horror game. Dead Space 2 featured a little more action than the first, but it balanced that tightrope walk perfectly. Dead Space 3 went a little too overboard into the action department and delivered a serviceable third-person action horror game. It just wasn't survival horror anymore. It wasn't the atmosphere, it just wasn't Dead Space. Based on what we've seen so far and what interviews have revealed, Callisto Protocol will be the spiritual successor to Dead Space 2 that fans have been waiting for since 2011. This is a theory, and nothing that we've seen explains this, but there is a very good chance that there will be dual antagonists in Callisto Protocol. In the trailers, we can obviously see the biophage, which will be the people that have been mutated by some virus created by the man testing on the station, and we also see giant security mechs patrolling the prison. Clearly, these two antagonists will provide two very different challenges that feel reminiscent of Metroid Dread, which had the planet's enemies, but also had the Emmys. Hopefully, Callisto approaches it the same way, as I felt the Emmy sections provided a thrilling and intense challenge that didn't overstay their welcome. Timing is everything, and you would think the best time to release a survival horror is near Halloween, but over the recent years, it's become clear that winter is a pretty ideal spot for the genre. For most people, winter's cold, dark, and miserable, which is a great way to add to the immersion. Dead Space 2 came out in January, Resident Evil 7 came out in January, RE2 Remake January, and Callisto Protocol is currently on schedule for a December 2nd release. Sure, it could be delayed, but I think Striking Distance is going to move heaven and earth to make sure that Callisto comes out before the Dead Space remake from EA in January.